order.
Okay. We're, I guess.
Hello.
You should change your.
Yeah.
Your six.
Hello. Hello. I think we can finally start. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but yeah, nice that everyone is here to the, I believe, 7th edition of the Rotterdam Live Coding Meetup. I see some new faces. That's good to see, or at least for me. Yeah, we have a few talks. I think 4 talks, and then the plan is to have a few casual jam sessions, live coding jam sessions. So if you brought your laptop, you're free to join in for sure. Yeah, I think the order, I will be going first, and you will be going second. You can go third if you want, and then Seb will be fourth, and then we'll have a small break, and maybe someone can time the presentations. Yeah? Yeah, like time 20 minutes roughly. And we can... yes.
I can do it.
Awesome.
20 minutes from now?
Yeah, sure. 20 minutes starting now. Okay, so yeah, welcome. I'm Bas Ekkelenkamp from Rotterdam. I'm a programmer, digital artist, and also a musician a little bit. I want to present you guys with visuals that I made for a live event, like a music event in Roodkapje. It was called an event called Murphy's Circus. Yeah, and I did visuals for one performance, which I'll be showcasing and explaining a bit of the behind the scenes. So, wait, let me set this up. So, as you can see here, playing in the background is a kind of trippy, endless world of cubes. So, yeah, this is all running in real time. I'm using a controller to control the camera. And I have some other controls like X to resize the cubes and also change the filling of the cubes. And I can go up and down. I can also change the FOV. So now I'm zooming out. Now I'm zooming in. And what was pretty cool about the event is that we actually live during the performance, I had a friend, Michael, who was actually standing in the crowd, and he was controlling the visuals live with the wireless controller from the crowd, which was quite a cool experience. And he was able to really match the energy of the live performance of the music really well by moving the camera in certain ways. Yeah. If you want, you want to try? You can pass it around. You can pass it around while I play. So X is if you hold X, you change the size of the cubes, and if you hold circle, it changes the filling as well. Oh. Wait, does it? Yeah. And you can use the right stick to look around and stuff like that. Nice. So yeah, maybe I give a bit behind the scenes how I built this. Oh. You can still keep controlling it, by the way. So this is a software called Touch Designer. Has any of you used or know about Touch Designer? One? so one person can be pleased. But yeah, so Touch Designer is a node-based programming software used to make digital art or digital installations or way more. It's very versatile. You can do lots of real-time things with it, so it's meant to be real-time, and it's node-based. So you have these nodes that you can connect to one another. I don't know what this error is about, but it's still working. And yeah, you can use it for lots of different things. And we can step into these blocks. And here we can see kind of how kind of the base of this whole system. So I'm using these blocks here to create the geometry that you're seeing right now, and it's using a method called ray tracing. And I'm no expert at ray tracing, but what it on a basis level does is it computes distances from the camera itself. So it kind of shoots out different rays, and it uses that to render geometry based on the distance of the ray from the camera itself. And yeah, that's very cool. This library, I actually used a library that someone from the Touch Designer community made to be able to do ray tracing within Touch Designer. It's called, gotta give a quick shout out, it's tagged from RayTK, who made this. So you can check out RayTK if you're interested. You can do very cool stuff with it. You can also do, even like volumetric LEDs is very powerful. So having these, like a 3D rendering kind of system is very useful for this library. But then you do need to build this whole setup. So yeah, within Touch Designer, it's actually quite easy, or the geometry part was actually quite easy. I used this thing called a wave field, which does some things with duplicating. So what you're seeing right now is actually a single cube that's being animated. But the way how ray tracing works is that it's just values that are being computed, like distance values from the camera itself, and those values can be kind of duplicated and reused. And that's kind of, I found a trick how to do that without losing too much performance. So then I was able to create this, seemingly infinite system. Like you can go up, down pretty infinitely without like dropping any performance. So that's quite cool. There's also, within Touch Designer you have all these variables, which are you can change the value of, but you can also map different values. So let's say here's an LFO that's outputting this value from between 0 and 1. And it's actually mapping that to this other parameter of this wave field, which is responsible for the animating cubes going, being kind of appearing and being created again. So what is one of the cooler things, or the things that I actually spent the most time with this project, was the camera controls. So maybe I can step into it. Step into that. This is a bit messy. But the cool thing is that Touch Designer has support for lots of different things. So these are all built-in, let's say, elements for example, you have Kinect, you have like Oculus Rift support. Yeah, you can. There's way more stuff, and this is purely numerical data. You also have tops, which are more pixel-based data, so you can have webcams or other types of things. So I use this joystick component, which, yes, as someone is moving the joystick, you can see the values pop up. Yeah, so you can literally just use that data and do anything with it. So what I did here was try to make a very, like smooth camera experience, let's say. And that turned out to be quite the challenge, actually, to get it, the whole smoothing part and the whole, like remembering the values it outputs and stuff like that. So that was a very cool challenge. I cannot really go through all of these blocks and what they do, but basically this part is for I think you had the side, actually, like there's two sides which are not infinite. Yeah, if you go to the top now. Yeah, I think there's the two sides are not infinite and the other two sides are infinite for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah, you got it, nice. And then, I'm doing all this transforming. So the data is going from block to block. And then eventually it all ends up in here. In here. And these are all the joystick information I'm outputting. And it comes out of this block. And then it comes out of this block. And then it comes here. And here is where I'm actually mapping those values to to the camera itself. So the camera itself is being moved around by these values. What else can I show? Yeah, is there any questions so far, or do you guys follow it at all, or? Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, yeah. So Seb was asking about. So maybe you guys are more familiar with this live coding software called Hydra. I made a port where you can use Hydra within Touch Designer, and I think I might have it in here actually, so we can answer your question live. Is it projects Hydra? I think it's that one, or yes. So we go Hydra. Okay. Let's see. Oh yes, it actually works. Nice. So this is another component that I made. And you see how easy it is to just drag a component like that into your network. But maybe I can make it a bit bigger. And then let's change some values to make it more interesting. I had a feature in here. Okay, wait. You can use, for example, a composite to composite both these things. Maybe a difference. Yeah, and here, see how easy you'll you can merge these two things. And that's also the power of Touch Designer, where you can make these components and actually transform them and use them in combination with each other, which is really cool about Touch Designer. But this is a very basic example, of course, but yeah. And I guess that's my talk. Thanks for the listening. Yeah, I think we have an order. You wanted to go second, right?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
You have the HMI? No. No.
I don't know what to say. But thanks for the time. We have.
Yeah. I can move a bit closer. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah? I need to touch the cable. Okay. Yes, speaking. Yep. So, thanks. Yes, that's my. Yes, that is. But I'm going to switch on the mirroring so that you can see the screen. Hi. My name is Riviera Taylor. My pronouns are she, her. And I am going to be speaking briefly about Clank School, which is a community and a space in the south of Rotterdam. The invitation was to speak about some of the events that are taking place there and what people are doing in the space. I'll talk a little bit about what I'm up to. And yeah. I have a little timer running on my phone, so I'll keep. Yeah, so it's okay. Okay, so first question is, where is Clank School? It is a 10-minute walk away from Rotterdam Lombardije station, which is in the south. You can get there in approximately 10 minutes from the central station. There are 2 bus routes which go there. There is the 70 and the 76. And that goes to Pythagorasweg. And also, if you take the tram, you can go to Molenvliet. There is also free on-site parking. So that's also useful to note. It's in the social space at Katulisweg. This is what the room looks like inside. As you can see, it's kind of decked out with some stuff at the moment. So we have a projector, which is attached to the ceiling. We have a soldering station where you can fix things. There's also some furniture. This is very helpful. We sit at the table often and repair things. We have a couple of musical equipments. There's some lights. It's a cozy space. And so I think the question is, what happens there? One of the questions, certainly. And effectively, we run a repair cafe or an unrepair cafe every Thursday from 6 o'clock in the evening. We've also had in the past performance evenings, as you can see in this GIF. People have come along and done improvisational music performances where they'll sort of, whether that's live coding or whether that's running a kind of, what's it, like graphical notation, but with free improv, with musical instruments. We have a performance night coming up on the 23rd. And also it's worth mentioning that other things take place in the social space there as well. There's a library, and I think there's also just scope for people to do things in other rooms as well. So it's engaging and so as I mentioned, we have some things coming up soon. There's the third Klankskool Dag en Avond. That's going to take place on the 23rd. There will be performances from people such as Adore, Dadaphone, Stephen Kerr, who's here this evening, Joke, and possibly others. Then there is going to be, as part of the kind of Unrepair Cafe, there are sort of thematic workshops that we're hoping to organize as well. So, for example, there's going to be a tour of the server, which is, I'll speak about more in a moment. And shortly afterwards, there's also going to be a e-waste scavenging hunt. We're really keen on repairing stuff, using things that are discarded and abandoned and giving them new life. So there's some ideas around sort of trying to blend that with live coding and using various protocols to, for example, make things move using probably a Flock instance, which is going to be running on the server. Generally, the idea is to, find devices, fix them up, stuff with moving parts, and then to live code on those. That's definitely a project that's happening. It's one of many things that are taking place in the space. So yes, you're all warmly invited to attend. The server, as I mentioned, is in the works. This photograph arrived this evening. There's a server rack that's going to be positioned in a room at Katu. And this is the server on the right-hand side. It was something which I actually picked up from V2 here, which is tremendous. It's a super micro machine, which has, I think, 4 gigabytes of RAM and 2 hard drives. There's going to be basically, I'm kind of, what I do during the repair cafes is I sit around and I Linux away on the server. So it was giving me like a Pixie boot interface. So I had to assign a IP address to an Ethernet port on my computer and then use an Ethernet connection to basically send an operating system over to the machine because it wouldn't accept a Linux via USB drive. So this was quite a complex process, and it was really interesting to learn how to do this. And that is now running Arch Linux. And the intention is to install containers on the machine. So using Incus, which is essentially a Linux container management software, and then to run, as I mentioned, a Flock so that there can be collaborative live coding. There's also a plan to run some kind of sound sharing system, something quite low tech, like just an FTP server, for example, with a web interface so that people can upload their sound files, stuff that gets recorded during the performance evenings, for example, or anything that anybody might like to share on there that they feel is relevant. Yeah, it's in the works, and the plan is to get this server online fairly soon. Yeah. We have a mailing list. This is exciting. Feel free to scan this QR code. It will take you to the page, the info page, and you're able to subscribe. And certainly, it's not an announced mailing list. It's a discussion list. So please feel free to contribute as you'd like with updates. If you want to run an event there, like a live coding thing, if you want to you could post a message, for example, on this mailing list. There's also scope to generally talk about sound practices, sound art. It's a very new feature. There's currently no emails on this mailing list. The intention is I personally will be writing to this list as a way of updating people about the goings-on the server. That's my intention. So as the infrastructure becomes more up and running and publicly available, then the intention is to provide updates. It's worth mentioning that, so I think another thing that's worth mentioning is there's going to be a calendar which will be federated and subscriptable. So for example, if you would like to, if you're on the Fediverse on Mastodon, you're able to essentially subscribe to this calendar, follow it, and recirculate the events in that context. It's also possible to connect it to your ICS calendar on your phone or or wherever. And this will allow you to effectively, get updates about what's taking place. And I think a lot of and so there are multiple avenues of communication. I think that the space is trying to bring through installing a server, but also around sound. And primarily around sound. There's a community at the moment of approximately 50 people who are gathered in a WhatsApp group chat, which is, I would say, not ideal. Like, personally, I think Meta is problematic for various reasons, but it's not my place to comment on this so much, or maybe it is. So I think that by using free and open source software, which is generally, integral to everything I do as a Linux user, for example, will bring around more freedom, more openness, more a different community sentiment, perhaps. And by utilizing this mailing list, that could be another avenue for keeping up to date with what is taking place. It was a fairly brief talk, I'll be fair. That was only about 8 minutes. I wish that I had more to say, but I strongly welcome you to attend. It's warmer in the space when more people show up. That is definitely worth mentioning. So yes.
Maybe questions from anyone?
Hey, let's see if this works. Does it work? Yeah. Nice. What is the kind of the next steps you want to take with the server?
A publicly routable IP address would be phenomenal. The intention is to bring the server into a it's to get this infrastructure really on the machine that I showed in this slide. So that it's up and running in a way that is, really connected to the space. That's the plan. Yeah.
Cool, thanks. Any more questions?
So ideally, where would you want this space to be at in maybe like 6 to 9 months or so? What kind of people would you want there to be, and what would you want them to be doing, and what kind of vibe would you want the space to have generally, as far as you can already know something about that?
That's a very good question. There were discussions around, and I think there's scope for the space to be. Okay, let me start again. Initially, the intention was to locate in, I think it's Wolfhetstraat, or just off the corner, yeah, where there was a space that became available, and it was going to be like a public living room, I think was very much what was discussed, where anyone can just kind of come and go and sort of book in and record sounds, have access to equipment low-key, but comfortably, and then maybe to hold some evenings where people share what they've been doing. I think that was very much the sentiment. And various months ago, unfortunately, it wasn't possible to move into this space due to upkeep around the building, and so it's sort of on hold. I think, as I understand it, that's still. I mean, it may or may not become available in 6 to 9 months. I do not know. What my hope is that somebody mentioned to me this evening that there are other places also in Rotterdam South which are potentially appropriate locations, maybe appropriate locations for Klankskol. And I think that it's really, I can't speak for everybody. So, you know, it's something that needs to be looked into in more detail in terms of figuring out what people want and opening up space for that. And I'm hoping, for example, that having a mailing list will contribute to that discussion, that it's a way in which that could take place.
I have a question actually. No, also because we're in a live coding event, and maybe if you can talk a little bit about maybe Tidalcycles or like other live coding environments that you use, and maybe that you also organize live coding events, maybe even algo raves. So maybe if you can talk a bit about that.
Of course, yes. I live code with Tidalcycles. I've been live coding with that software for approximately 3 years. It's very enjoyable to just grow my career, like technical vocabulary in this language. There was actually, I found that Flock is really helpful for this, for doing collaborative live coding. For example, yeah, there was an image, you may have noticed, I can go back to it, here, right there, it's gone now, of, yeah, some live coding that took place in this space. And I've also done some live coding with Fluxus, which is made by Dave Griffiths. There's scope to, for example, hook that into Tidalcycles. So if you want to, you can, and it's like a visual programming, not visual, it's text-based, but it generates graphics. So you can draw cubes and tori, which I learned recently is the plural of torus, and then kind of make them audio reactive, and it's like Lisp-based. So I, for example, use various, yeah, so I sort of dip into different programming languages, but I'm not really into sort of maybe the most conventional ones in some sense. And I like the challenge of engaging with different programming languages. So I recently a few months ago, went to Germany with a collaborator, and we performed live coding on some printers, which was really enjoyable. And that's kind of where this idea to sort of find abandoned materials and to live code on those products comes from, which is, as I was speaking about earlier. So algo raves are always welcome. More algo raves, basically, would be great. And yeah, it's live coding is good fun.
How did you live code on printers?
So what I found out is that, so to some extent, Tidalcycles is like an open sound control metronome. It sort of sends out messages to targets, which you can program using an initialization script. And then you can essentially say, I have, let's say, a microcontroller, like it's like an ESP32 or something like this. And you can use an open sound control Arduino library to listen to messages arriving on a certain port, and then you say, and this is also where a friend and I are looking into sort of different protocols that might be useful around moving away from IP address based live coding, because I think the open sound control is very much based on that. So if you were to use a different protocol, then for example you might be able to get a different effect. Or to send messages in other formats, like I'm thinking of, different libraries that might allow you to do this. But essentially, you program the microcontroller, and you say, when I send the message to this open sound control address, send power on that motor at this, so it's high. And then if I send the message low, make it low. So you can then, if the motor is plugged into, is connected to a printer, you can basically move the components in the printer, and by extension generate algorithmic audio, sort of. So yeah.
Super cool, thanks. Any more questions? Yeah.
Until here. Hey, super cool, your idea about the printer. And my question was actually for another area or another topic. You were talking about the repair cafe. That was one of the activities that you find most interest to develop at Clunk School. And I was just wondering, I don't know how much activities you develop about it there, but I can imagine that a lot of people that go. Now, first of all, it's really special that you do a repair cafe that's related to audio. It's something really special and unique. Usually it's about, I don't know, hair dryers or bicycles. And that's very special, that's why. But I can imagine a lot of people go to repair cafes for a very specific objective. Like, I want to repair my bicycle. I want to repair my computer. And I was just curious if there are people that comes to this kind of meetups to not only discover a technology, but also reimagine somehow? Or is it mostly people that come like, I just want to repair and make it as it was, something like this?
So as I understand it, the question was, how do people attending the Repair Cafe perhaps have the opportunity to reimagine certain technologies rather than to simply come with a very specific goal, which is I have a broken this and I'd like to make it work again. Certainly that is something that could be very interesting to look into in more detail, to for example, take things apart and then piece them back together again in different ways, creating sort of assemblages of machines that are hybrid in that respect, sort of, maybe. I think we're out of time. Okay.
questions? Should we do 10 minutes break? Can you take it? The time.
Yes. So we start at 40.
Hello, hello. Okay. We're gonna continue. We have like two very short presentations now, and the idea after that, maybe we could have like a little break while we do a little bit more setup, and we wanted to have like this bit of a tradition in the live coding community, especially also there's maybe I should talk about this as like a bigger umbrella of this is that, like we meet the Rotterdam live coders monthly here at V2. And we're very thankful that we are received here. But there's also Netherlands Coding Live. That's basically like kind of a live coders from all of the Netherlands. We get together every now and then, on also on meetups. And so I will show a little bit about the page and so on. But there's this kind of tradition on the Netherlands Coding Live community to have a small jam at the end. So we're gonna have like 10 minutes or so presentation. Well, I'll do 10 minutes, 2 shorter presentations, and then we have a bit of a jam in the end. And it's gonna be 9-minute performances of visuals and audio with live coded. And from scratch, we start with an empty screen and see how far we can go. So now I'll we move on. I would say if we have 40, we have no jam. So it's up to you. I'll make mine 10. Okay. Can this?
Hello. Yeah, I'm not going to sit down because I can't sit to save my life if I talk. Hi. Welcome back from the break. My name is Daniel. It says also on the screen. I'm going to talk about some stuff live and some technology. I perform with technology, so everything happens on stage. I'm not sure if that counts as live coding, depending on how far you stretch the definition, but there's a lot of code in my life, and there's a lot of life in my life. And tonight, I want to talk about this workshop Acrobot thingy with possible new names that can be suggested at the end of the session, and the stuff around that. Let me introduce what this is and why we're talking about this. Oh, I bought myself a clicker, so I don't even need to touch this. This is the workshop Acrobot thingy that I have in front of me, but here somebody else is using it because it is designed for a workshop where somebody can create an interactive performance with a robot in, I don't know, an hour or 2. There are some test participants during the very first session that we created at Creative Coding Utrecht who funded this workshop somehow. And I'm here tonight because this robot itself, I'm publishing the design of the robot as open source hardware, and I'm doing that at the end of this, or towards the end of the talk. I'm going to push the button where it's going to go live. And the first half of this talk, I'll talk about the background behind this, why I even needed a workshop Acrobot robot thingy. But before that, to give you a tiny taster, somebody posted this on their Instagram yesterday. I had some friends at my house yesterday, and they recorded this thing that they put on their story, and I copied it. It was perfect timing today. You can see the little red robot in action. That's it doing acrobatics. But why is there a robot doing acrobatics, and why would you want to learn this in a workshop, and why did I make this, and why did Creative Coding want to fund that, and why are we here at V2 to talk about this, and why in a part of a live coding session? All of that might make sense if I go back to the very beginning. 2 years ago, I was here in V2, 2.5 years ago, during the summer sessions, to create the Acrobots. I'm a circus artist. I do acrobatics with people. I didn't have a partner because my partners, sorry, this is a circus slide, that's me doing stuff. But my partners, they would all disappear. They were injured or they moved to other countries. This residency was right out of Corona, so everybody had picked up other jobs. So I want a partner, so I figured I guess I'll have to build one. I'm not a roboticist. I didn't know how to build a robot partner, but here I went to V2 and was like, hi, can I come build a robot partner? And V2 said, sure, great idea. Do you have a plan? So, yes, I have a plan. I'll just buy a mannequin and I'll put some motors in there. And then, obviously, if you have a motorized mannequin, you could do handstands, right? Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Which is what we did. Long story short, it broke down after 2 shows, was fun. So I built another one, broke down after 10 shows, was fun. And now we're here at version 3 of the Acrobots. And version 3 didn't go exactly according to plan. I thought I'll do 20 shows and it breaks down and then that'll be my life and then I'll go pick up something else to do with my stuff. But there was this thing that it once broke down on camera into my face, and that's over here. This is a programming error. This is a memory overflow. Well, actually, I'll let you see it first. What's memory overflow, which caused the robot to reboot and therefore jump into my face, which was a nice little happy accident because this got seen on Instagram by 6 million people, among whom programmers for TV shows who emailed me and be like, hey, can you please fly to America to be part of America's Got Talent or France Got Talent or Spain Got Talent. So I did all of those and suddenly it was a full-time job can we go next? Yeah? We can watch a tiny snippet of me performing in America's Got Talent. I recorded this in March of this last year. We're in a new year, March 2024, but it was aired in July, and since then, it's been a crazy year. I've recorded 5 of these talent shows by now, and 3 of them are on air. It's fun, but it's so much fun. I didn't want to be the only person having fun. Like, I can get to dance with a big robot, and it's a great experience. Like, you get to see what you can do with a human and a machine together. How does it feel to react? I learn about how it's different to communicate with a robot on stage than it is to communicate with a partner on stage. I get to learn how to choreograph moves on stage, how it's different from choreographing myself on stage. And I got more and more questions about, can I teach some of these skills to others? And it's kind of difficult because there's only one of these acrobats. It's kind of dangerous to work with. I mean, it still falls on my face every now and then. So slowly the idea became to make a small one. And I had already been working on a small one. Last trick. Pa-pa-pa-pam. And then show off your great power. Yes. And next. Boop. No, let's do that next. I'll go back here. Yeah, so I was already working on a small one because I thought if this is going to be like a show, then I want to have some kind of merchandise people can buy after the show, and that people can become part of this engineering world that I'm in. So the robot is made of these extrusion profiles from aluminium, and then I found these tiny ones. So I was like, you know what? I'll make a tiny kit that people can assemble themselves and have their own acrobots. So people who come to the show can assemble their own robots. And then people are like, but can I have this motorized? Can it animate? Complicated. And by now, the first robot was just a long list of numbers where I told it where to go or stuff. But by now, you have found this animation software that allowed me to animate the robot act. The whole robot act is programmed in a software called Botango. And Botango is super accessible. I can program my show in it, but anybody could program my show in it, in theory. So for this workshop idea, I realized I want a tiny robot, like the one you just saw, that can be animated in Botango so that anybody can make their own robot performance and go viral on the internet and travel all the world. That was the plan. I pitched this to Creative Con Utrecht. They were like, great idea, let's go do it. The last year I've been designing this thing. I didn't think much about how I wanted the workshop to be. I mostly thought about how I want this robot to be so that people have something to work with. It's modeled right after my original acrobot, so there's no knees, no ankles. It can't walk by itself. It can only walk assisted by a partner. It's a collaborative performance where it's humans and machines working together. Often in the workshop, that means there's 2 people working at once, one animating on the software and one holding the robot trying out stuff. And the middle one was my prototype, but on the left and the right, you see the mock-ups that we made for, does anybody know Digital Playground? It's a workshop agency just around the corner here in the Schilderstraat, because they ordered 15 of these robots. So I was like, I don't have time to teach these workshops now because suddenly my whole calendar is full. And they bought some robots so they can teach their own workshops. So if you ever want to learn this stuff, you can also contact them and do stuff. Or maybe I make some more robots. We'll see. But for them, there's going to be this black body thing and neon arms, because that's what Gen Z wants to see according to their designer. What's next? But then the thing why I was asked to be here, I figured this robot, I don't want to deal with this little robot all my life, so I want to publish the design and then anybody can build it. You can build it. I've just never published any open source hardware before. I've never actually published any open source code. I'm not a coder, I'm a circus artist. But here we go, I made this little Git page today to celebrate the launch. So this is also my little launch party, and actually I'm going to do right now. I was gonna find my thingy on GitHub, and as of no, it's not this setting. It is which setting is it? This setting. As of 5 seconds from now, change visibility. Do we need to? Yeah, I've read. I understand. Make it public. Yeah. Passkey. Yes. Sure. How many steps there? Vault unlocked. Yeah. Okay. Secret passcodes. GitHub. Sure. And now, the Acrobot workshop thingy is published. Hey! So if you feel like you can download the 3D print files, you can download the electronics, you can download the software that you need. The Botango is free, and the project file is in this repository, and the driver is in here. I would like maybe after its discussion point, if somebody's more familiar with this than I am, I would like to know about the best practices for publishing open hardware. It's much more difficult to find licenses that fit open hardware. Right now, I just temporarily licensed under a CC BY license just because that's easy. But for code, there's all these kind of best practices, how they dump it in there. Also, it's not finished. I need to change some stuff for the version that I'm making for Digital Playground. So I want to feed those changes into here, but this is not my working folder, because there I have way too many files or way too many complicated names of last number 2, last finish for real, last 2 kind of naming scheme that I don't want in this repo to happen. So I'm not sure how to make sure that this stays up to date. I'm also not sure how to deal with possible contributions of anybody in the future, but maybe there's going to be some university students to be like, hey, Daniel, we want a internship job, and I'll be like, yeah, sure, make a version of this with wheels, so then we can make it into a robot and skateboarding workshop. How to then integrate that into this in a way that makes sense to people that might want to fabricate this, or whether something like this can only really live if I make an instructable page and a video about how to assemble and build this robot thingy. But that's something for later. Let's see what is next in here. Did I have more plans to say? Ah yeah, no. In that case, we go next to the real thing, which is the demo of the mini Acrobot. I don't like the name Mini Acrobot, and Workshop Bot is also kind of boring. The workshop people have been calling now Robot Got Talent, which is all right, but if there's suggestions for this thing? Mickey the robot. Ah, yeah, because that's right now there's white gloves, but then Digital Playground will get orange gloves. And I'm sure. Oh no, Mickey Mouse no longer copyrighted, right? So that's a good thing. Anyway, so here we have. If I scream, will the live feed hear me enough, or should I be like? I should be like this probably. Yeah. Okay, one-handed information here. We have Botango. Botango is animation software. I have a digital representation of my robot, and usually I do this with a mouse, and guess what I didn't bring? A mouse. Hardware. I have a little dongle in my laptop. The dongle is streaming data over ESP Now, and this is all built into Botango. When I started, they didn't have this, but luckily, halfway through, they decided to support this kind of stuff and allow me to make the robot wireless. And then there's a motor switch on my robot. Should I press it now? I hope that, bam, instant, easy peasy. And then in Botango, let's go here. I can control these different joints. So I have a leg joint over here that if I move the leg joints in real time, now it's almost live coding, right? Because I can play, and if there's somebody else, actually let me do a small demo, and then we turn this into a small 2-person session. I prepared some animations, which I also prepare for this is the project file that I give to people in the workshop, so they can see what walking could look like, but it can't really walk on its own. It's a bit pathetic in a way. But with some help, it becomes the co-performance. This is the same what I do with my robot on stage. Or maybe I can make this a little bit more interesting for this co-performance. Improvising at the moment with the mic and with one hand and with no mouse. Let's see, right arm. Let's delete the whole animation. So this is like an animation timeline. Left to right is time. There's a channel for each limb. Right now I'm adjusting the right arm, and I'm setting the right arm to a fixed position, giving it only one spot on the timeline. Playback. And that could be the start of my performance. But because it's an acrobat, we do a little handstand on the floor. You stand, I press play. And push. Up. I learned a lot about the mechanics of handstands from having to animate handstands in software. Like my body knows how to do a handstand. I instinctively know when I need to move my shoulders down, when I need to push up, how I operate all my joints at the same time to be able to do this trick. But programming it in, even when I only work with 2 shoulders and 2 hip joints, which is much more simplistic in a way, it was complicated to figure out that there's this moment that the hands, they first go forward, and then they go a little bit up and over and then back. And I teach acrobatics, also to humans, but I teach them differently now that I have a different perspective on how robot acrobatics works, which is kind of funny. And of course, it can balance with the help of a partner again. By itself, it's kind of dumb, but together, you can totally turn this into performance and go to your talent shows. So we have still some time left, so I figured, like, how about I get 2 volunteers to give this a quick try. I give one of you the robot, and then the other one I assist with sliding some things up and down, see how it works. Who wants to hold the robot? Any takers? Yes, please come. And somebody to wiggle around some arms and legs in 3D. Yes, please, come.
What did I sign for?
You sign to hold this over here, and you it will go to jump to stand right now. So and then so I don't have a mouse, but you can hold these. Can I go up here? Let's see. So it is designed as a workshop where normally I would take some time to teach the students or somebody else who teaches students, because I don't teach this workshop very often, to teach the interface, how this works, and then also all the background behind, like, why would you want to have a performance? And it's I've been asking myself, what does it mean for a robot to do tricks? I do tricks. I'm a circus artist, so for my life consists of doing tricks. And then people applaud me when I do tricks. When I do a backflip, people say, like, oh, that's good that you did that. But when a robot does a backflip, do we applaud the robot, or do we applaud the person who was programming and building the robot? And does it actually make any kind of sense? And the longer I thought about this, I realized that I do kind of tricks to show off, to get attention, to show how strong and interesting I am. And something is going wrong with the HDMI. Am I right? And the same is true for robots. Like these Boston Dynamics robots, they don't do backflips because it is useful for them. They do backflips to be able to get attention, to be able to show off their... They show off how strong their motors are, how precise they can operate and control them. So it's very, very similar. And all this human-robot interaction, well, I already talked about, like I communicate different with them. With my normal partners, I can just say, like, let's do this routine, but now a little bit slower, or let's try and do it in a different corner of the stage. And this robot doesn't really talk back to me. It's a completely new mode of thinking for me on how to communicate with my partner. And that's something that I hope to share with people who join this kind of workshop. They also realize, like, this machine, it does communicate. It does have its own way of saying what it wants and how it needs to be operated, but it's completely foreign to human-like communication. We shouldn't expect human-like communication from it. We can have this whole different kind of communication, which in this case goes through a 3D interface where somebody can drag around some random stuff. And actually they're communicating with each other also through this robot. Like he can influence her by the way that he slides things up and down. So those are the kind of things that I wanted to show. And thanks for listening, and let me know if you have any questions. And thank you too. It was a search to find the right kind of motors to be able to hold this. Right now, these are the old motors from the prototype, and I'm switching them to different motors. Actually, good that you mentioned it. There are some sponsors who gave me some materials, among which the DF robot, which sent these clutch servo motors. And servo motors have a clutch integrated. If you push too hard on them, then they just freely rotate, which is great because then kids can't break them. Whereas these are super powerful because I wanted them to be able to do this. But you don't need to do this so often. And then if you push too hard, then the plastic parts, they will break the splines on the gear that attach to the servo. They can tear off. And I tried to make these in a way that you don't destroy them so easily if you throw them around or if kids play with them who are less careful than you were. So thank you for being careful, though. You did great. Any more comments, questions, thoughts? I mostly wish that I could do more movement research. I learned juggling because I spent 6 years in circus schools just throwing balls and seeing what would happen. And with the robot, I spend sometimes half a day to see what happens, sometimes a whole day to see what happens. But then in the end, I'm always stuck with that it's very expensive to do that because I need to have a second person to control the robot with a remote if I want to test new things. And that the robot always breaks down at the end of such a day because I try things that are beyond its limits. So I've never spent more than a single day experimenting stuff. And I think just by experimenting, just this week last week Friday, I was filming something for promotion for the robot. And by accident, I pressed buttons on my remote in such a way that it did something it never did before. I can show you the video in a second. And I would love to spend more time just exploring movement for the sake of movement to only afterwards consider, now that I have this library of movement, what would I want to share with the world? Whereas when you apply for, I don't know, subsidy for a project, they want to know what you want to share with the world, and then you just have to make the movement for that. I want to get the freedom to work the other way around, to be able to figure out what's inside the robot, what it wants to share, what its vocabulary is, and then do this kind of stuff. And then for the thing that we just discovered this Friday, the thing I'm really excited about right now, but for when you have no context, it's kind of random. I was just pressing random buttons, and suddenly for the first time, the robot stood up by itself. I didn't expect that. I didn't know it could do that in 2 different ways even. So that's my little invention. And that's after randomly trying stuff in the studio. If only I had like a week to try stuff or a month to try stuff. I've been working on this robot for 2 years, but there's still so little time in the studio. It's always like rushing to get something working on stage and then repeating the one thing because creating new material for stage is so expensive. Whereas as a juggler, I could just create an act in a day and then modify it for the next version. And because here it's all saved in the end, what code we have, making a new choreography takes a month. And then doing research for that choreography is too expensive to do. We're at 20 minutes. I don't know how long you want this Q&A to go for, but up to you. Then let's okay, let's do one question then if there's one left, and then we leave it there. So I spent the last week investing in upgrading my my animation workflow. So originally I would control with the remote, see what it does, film that, then take that home, have the reference video next to Botango, and then reanimate in Botango what I just did, bring it back to the studio, and then figure out does it still physically work? Never it does. Then you bring it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until you have the animation in Botango and save it. I would love to record stuff in Botango, but joystick movements are too imprecise, and it's really difficult to do stuff. But for example, movement on limbs could be interesting for some of the sequences. Or I could have a puppet that I could control. And to get more kind of movement interfaces, or sorry, input interfaces, I'm now working on connecting another software called Chatijn. It's a software that connects different input protocols to different output protocols. For example, it's really easy to say like, I take DMX in and send MIDI out, or I take OSC in and send Arduino serial out. I'm using it right now to take inputs from all different kind of directions and sending them to Botango. It's just that rewriting my shoddy code that's running on the robot to send its data, because it knows its positions, but to send this and stream this to Chatijn so it can be streamed into Botango is not working very well. If anybody feels like they want another side project where they can spend their free time programming on my robots, then feel free to contact me, because then we can talk about how to make the animation workflow so that there is little effort to animate a move from the robot into a choreography. Can I become the robot and the robot perform? Well, I guess this robot is kind of helpless in many ways. It doesn't, well, it's before now it never stood up by itself. It doesn't walk by itself. So I think it becomes quite obvious that it has an assistant. And what I do like is that it's different from puppetry in the sense that it does take initiative. It can ask for something. It can reach out. It can be the first to do something. But then there's always this superior complex being. I can just lift it up, put it somewhere else and put it down. And it gives me a lot of freedom also to engage with different kind of spaces, different kind of audiences, because I can adjust and be like bigger or smaller on stage because of my part of it. Would I do that the opposite? I think I take all the worst parts of what I can do and be like, oh yeah, I can only do be a robot. And the robot would lack all these amazing features that now make the show great. So I think it would make it very difficult to do a good thing. The robot can't decide to be big in front of a big stage and small in front of a small stage, because it always does the same thing. And I can't decide to do it because I'm pretending to be a robot then. Yeah, the list of creative avenues that we can explore had we had infinite time with the robot is so big. That's one of the reasons why I'm like, if we update my workflow, then we can go for that avenue and go for these other 1,000 ideas that are also still floating around of what you could do with them. Or, even better, you make one of these tiny robots yourself, and then you can experiment on it without me potentially. And then hopefully one day I wake up to a viral video of somebody with a great idea with their own robot, and then the world becomes more interesting. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Hello. Okay. Very sadly, we're out of time. So, in all honesty, I should show nothing because if we still want to do a jam, but because I opened already some stuff on my browser, I'll go quickly through this. Give me a moment. Here we are. Okay. So I mentioned a little bit about Netherlands Coding Live. Or maybe first I could actually, this thing you've been hearing and seeing is a recording of my last performance. This was the last Netherlands Coding Live event we had in Amsterdam in Orca. And I was here using Tidalcycles to generate MIDI events that were routed to Reaper, and then I had like multiple virtual synthesizers and also one hardware synthesizer outside of the machine, and some because my background is in film. There's also a film happening and multiple overlays with 2 live coding environments with Hydra, but also P5 Live, talking to each other. And I wish I had more time to go into this, but there is no time. So just so that you're aware, and hopefully you join us. So, someone actually here from Rotterdam, Richard, he's not with us tonight, but he made it possible to implement like sharing a calendar here in an LCL. So this is a lot more updated nowadays. We don't have tonight's event though, because I've been very busy. And the reason I've been so busy is because I'm working on a film. But before I show you that, I'd like to go to this awesome live coding page. That's, I think, if you're interested in live coding, worth checking out. It has quite complete repository of all kinds of live coding environments. So you have, as you see, like all kinds of languages also involved: Python, JavaScript, Haskell. So maybe visit this page and try things. Some of these environments, like Strudel or Mercury, for example, Timo was with us last time. Orca has also web editor, so in many of these cases you can just test. How do you feel with creating audiovisual content with code? Some of the environments are quite accessible, like I have here Hydra, and this is one of the examples that I gave them. This is like an audio reactive script with some geometry and some feedback. But Riviera also talked about this before. You also have, if I find my cursor, you also have Flok, which is a collaborative environment. And you see I can run also Hydra here. And normally we have a path online that we're not sharing today because it's really offline, and we're going to try to fix that for next time. But with a simple URL, we could have like multiple users logging in and changing the code in real time. So maybe for those of you who are not familiar at all with live coding, this is a very uncomfortable position to type, but we have an oscillator here going to an output, so I can maybe just quickly modulate this with maybe another oscillator, similar, but then maybe rotate it. And maybe this is a bit too subtle. Let's have this value a little bit bigger. And you can see now that this is like diagonally modulated by a different oscillator. Maybe if I make it more exaggerated, it becomes a bit more obvious. But okay, so hopefully we will have this online, and then people can just go to this URL and contribute to this. This is going to be, I'm going to keep this going anyways, but I won't have the screen on for longer. I want to talk a little bit about this film that I'm presenting in the International Film Festival Rotterdam. I'm not sure if they have the dates already here, but it's going to be on the 31st of January. There are 2 screenings. There's one screening on the 1st of February, and there's one later in the week, I think on the 6th or the 7th in IJsselmonde. The reason this film relates to the event tonight is that I used a lot of materials, live coded materials for the films. I used it sometimes as visual effects, sometimes as textures, and sometimes as part of the narrative. So I'll show really quickly because we don't have the time, unfortunately, to go through it as I would have preferred. But here are some materials that I created then. For example, this is no audio. But for example, this is like feedback that I also for the film sent through an analog video mixer, so that I could have also analog video feedback added to it. And here you can see the original code that I used to create this. In the film, I also kept a little bit of the code in a small moment. I also used this audio. That is, I'm sending MIDI using Tidalcycles to Sonic Pi. All of these materials were recorded in 2019, 2020, so it's a little bit aged, but well, it basically got a new life, second life, as part of my audiovisual narrative. Show one more. Okay, and last, there's some experiments I did with Hydra with geometric forms, and I was working with circles and trying to create kind of a fake 3D from like 2D objects. Give me a moment. This is not the right one. Here, this is the sphere sequence. So I started with this geometrical forms and tried to kind of create a kind of a use creatively light in a 2D environment to slowly sort of morph this into more of a 3D environment. So I'm just skipping through very quickly because I really want to have time for jamming at least a little bit. So you can see now this is now modulating, kind of modulation feedback, and I think my computer just crashed. Oh, here we go. We're back, okay, somehow. This is there, okay. 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 This is moving. So, and this is more or less the final stage of this experimentation. And you can see I did something with like reflection and rotation and feedback, and created this simile of 3D with really kind of a slightly complex parallax effect. And I think I'm going to wrap it up here because otherwise there will be no time for the jam. But maybe time for one or two questions. By the way, the film is called Euclidean Man. I hope some of you will join me in IFFR, and then you can watch the whole film. It has a narrative that is basically stems from Marshall McLuhan's ideas, and I used his voice as the narrative of the film, and it deals with culture and technology and how this dialogue, the dialogue between the two of them evolves over time, and how they affect each other. But okay, maybe one or two questions, and then we move on if anyone would like to ask something. Yeah, can you? Thank you. Thank you.
The piece that you've been playing tonight with the visuals?
Say again, sorry?
The piece that's been playing tonight with the visuals on the red?
Yeah.
Is that the MIDI that we're seeing on screen as well?
Yeah, those are MIDI notes. Yeah, so I was capturing part of the scene that I was using. I was using also OBS to generate this. And so one of the capture sources was the Reaper timeline. Really, that was recording the MIDI events live. And so I was sending MIDI packages using Dirt MIDI from Atom to sending to through Tidalcycles to Super Collider, and then Super Collider is kind of like doing the just doing something called that I called or whatever these granular functions to do MIDI composition sort of, and so I was using this kind of granular MIDI. I like to call it that, combining these granular functions of tidal cycles and sending them to MIDI instruments, and there was also one external instrument there. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Maybe one last. Yeah.
How do we get tickets for your film?
Yeah, I'm not sure actually. I have a list that you are included in it, but
Awesome.
but that's
The
gone
rest.
already. So I guess through IFFR, I think the tickets are on the 15th. I think also with Cineville, this is going to be part of RTM. It's going to. I think the subsection of RTM is called. The dehumanizing of things, and I think you can also, if you have Cineville, you can also go in for free. So the idea of the film was to basically invite the audience to imagination and conversation. So hopefully we have we have a good moment of triggering people's imagination and during the film, and then a moment for conversation afterwards. So. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
And I guess sorry.
Let's do a jam.
Yes, let's do a jam. Let's have a 5-10 minute break, and so as we sit up, and then let's do a jam. Yeah. So thank you, everyone. Please bear with us.